Hello, housing providers. Welcome to another episode of the Fair Housing Insiders. Did you know that violence doesn't always equal VAWA? Well, today we're going to be talking about when VAWA does and doesn't apply. Let's dive right in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Fair Housing Insiders. Today we are focusing on VAWA. That's the Violence Against Women Act, when it does and doesn't apply. I'm your host, Michael Coughlin, and today we're joined by our president and fair housing attorney, Kathy Williams. Kathy, as always, thanks for coming in. Let's dive right into this, and let's start with a scenario, Kathy. Maybe you can help me out as well as our audience. So a resident invites a guest to their property, and a violent altercation occurs, unfortunately. A couple of weeks go by, and management takes an eviction action against the victim. The resident claims that they should be protected under VAWA. So does VAWA apply to this situation?
You know, Michael, it may or it may not. And the first thing we're going to have to look at is what kind of housing is this? Because VAWA as a specific law doesn't apply to all housing. If the housing is federally funded, so that's going to include housing authority properties and Section 8 properties, whether the manager or the owner is or is not funded by Section 8, if it is Section 8 housing, it is covered by VAWA. Also, a large amount of our housing nowadays is tax credit housing, and VAWA applies to that too. If it's just straight conventional housing, the law, the Violence Against Women Act, doesn't apply.
All right. So in this case, it's the type of housing that somewhat dictates what direction we go here, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, got it. Once again, another complicated situation. And remember, in order to avoid complicated situations, you need to be watching videos like this that give you fair housing guidance. So make sure to click that like button and subscribe and keep watching. All right. So Kathy, let's say we're in federally funded housing for hypothetical sake. How does that affect our resident and the VAWA considerations?
Okay, so if VAWA does apply to that housing, we're also going to have to look at what was the reason for the eviction. If the reason is that altercation, then we may be looking at a VAWA situation, and probably are looking at a VAWA situation. If the reason for the eviction was something else, let's say the resident has loud parties and it's been a consistent problem, or maybe we have a drug use problem, and that has been, the resident has been warned, notified, and now it's time to evict her for that issue, then VAWA does not apply. So the second issue is always going to be the reason for the eviction. But listen, if the reason is that violent altercation, then VAWA applies, and you probably ought to start your VAWA procedures.
That makes a lot of sense, Kathy. All right. Now, we'd love to talk more about VAWA procedures, but there's not enough time in this episode. So we'll save that one for another day. All right. So that's why you need to make sure to check in with us at the Fair Housing Insiders. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and share with your team. This stuff really matters, guys. So thank you, everyone, for joining us, housing providers out there. Happy training.